Welcome to the Inspired Intentions podcast with Skyterra Wellness. If you've been too busy and not taking care of yourself, it's time to reset habits and plunge into your new normal. Jeff and Rachel back here with you today, and this is the first time in a while where it's been just us.
Yeah. Hi, Jeff.
Hey.
Yeah, I think we've had some great guests on.
It's nice to have a break from all those guests, every once in a while. These podcast walls can close in on you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take it back to simplicity.
Yep.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you do when you wake up in the morning?
Oh my gosh, is this our topic for the day?
This is our topic.
We are going through morning routines. Well, since you asked, number one, movement. Right away, I'm going to move my body. Whether that's a group class or going out for a run to keep up with the run streak.
Hey, is your run streak still going?
Still going.
That's awesome.
It's still going.
That's awesome.
And that's pretty much the biggest thing is just for me, moving the body is going to get my energy going for the day. It's going to already start to relieve some stress. I just know that, from a standpoint of doing this for a long time now, on those days which happens to everybody, that you miss one part of that morning routine, you don't feel the same. So first things first, always going to move the body. After that, if I've been out for the class or getting in from the run, I'm going to go right to the shower, hit the shower quick, and then going to go, before the shower, coffee goes on.
Got to have the coffee.
Yeah, and this is all about efficiency. So shower, coffee's on, coffee's ready once I get out of the shower. And then this is that big non-negotiable is to pick up a book, even if it's for just 2 pages, or some mornings I have closer to 20 minutes. I'll get kind of some reading going. And as you probably know, I like to reference what I read. You do. From the beginning of that day. And so it really just inspires me to grow personally, and it keeps it so that I'm never forgetting that there's something new I can learn.
Jeff, how long did it take you to build your morning habit?
Quite a while. I would say the biggest thing with it is it has evolved into what it is today, where I think at first when you're starting a morning routine, you try to put too many things into the morning. So you start to figure out what things are really important to you. And I'd say since we opened Skyterra, it was probably within that first year that it really took to solidify this, because I was in a new environment. We had moved up here to North Carolina. And so I'd say it was a good year to have those 4 specific steps that I was expressing.
And did you, as you were trying to figure out what worked for you, did you notice, like on the days, for example, that maybe you didn't do movement in the morning or you didn't read your book in the morning, did you feel differently during the day? Yeah.
And I always kind of go back to the science where when you think of the nervous system, you're supposed to actually start to be getting into more of that sympathetic state in the morning. Mm-hmm. So you're supposed to get that body going. So by moving my body first thing in the morning, I almost would feel like I didn't get that immediate stress relief, because cortisol for most individuals depends on their circadian rhythms. It's going to tend to be naturally higher before noon. And so by exercising at that time and moving your body, you're actually going to set your day up for a lot of success from a standpoint of when you should be stressing your body. Not that all movement is going to be a deep stress, but for me, I always look at fitness as a stress relieving mechanism when timed accordingly.
So would you say that your mornings are the most deliberate parts of your day?
100%. One other thing that's included as part of this routine is that I do not go to any electronics whatsoever. I literally do not check email until I get into the office. I think a common thing that folks struggle with is the first thing they do is they pick up their cell phone and they check what they missed overnight. And that is the best boundary I have that has allowed me to keep those 4 sort of tenets in the morning always. Because the second you start picking up your technology, watching TV, you start to get flooded with information that may actually be unnecessary and may not be important in the moment. And when you think about it, we only get one morning every day. So that's one really key thing to think about is what are you doing in those first 5 minutes? And if it has something to do with someone else's expectations of you or
someone else's priorities.
Yeah, someone else's priorities, then you will get sucked into it. And it's just a boundary that we really need to uphold to keep a morning routine dialed in.
That's important.
Yeah. How about you? You've been asking me about my morning routine?
You know, I like to ask questions.
I know, you're all about it. Of course, is the run streak still
The run
going?
streak is still on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, walk me through it. Is it always the run in the morning? Do you do anything more diverse than what I'm describing?
Yeah, my morning is actually pretty similar to yours. I also try to not look at my phone. I have a book that has just a devotional for every day of the year. And it's just a couple of paragraphs. I like to start my day in that way. And then movement is really important for me as well. Sometimes I do a group fitness class. Sometimes I just run. Sometimes I do both. Just depends on what my body feels like. And then coffee for me too.
Wow.
That's very important.
Almost sounds like it's a food group for both of us.
It's maybe the most important.
Yeah.
I mean, not as important as lattes.
Oh, yeah, like our executive producer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I bet if he was on the air right now, we'd be able to ask what his morning routine is like. And
But he does not have a mic.
Yeah.
Not today.
No, not today. And he would probably order a latte, so I don't think we even have to ask the question.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think what we're both saying is that mornings really set the tone for your entire day. But I have a question for you, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you use an alarm clock or do you use your phone as an alarm?
I do use my phone as an alarm clock. However, here is the deliberate act with the cell phone.
I'm really interested in this. Yeah.
Are you ready? So you don't want to keep a cell phone too close to your bed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, according to some statistics I've read a while back, about 71% of people keep their cell phone right next to their ear while they're sleeping. And it's kind of wild in two parts. One, World Health Organization has labeled cell phones as a mild carcinogen. So from a standpoint of keeping electronics that close to you when you're sleeping, not so great of a thing. But the second thing that has more to do with, alleviating that stress in the morning and just in general is like, if that cell phone is close to you, then you're going to be constantly kind of thinking about it. You're going to be thinking about what are those to-dos that you didn't get to today, and then also maybe even already trying to forecast the next day. So for me, my cell phone is the alarm clock, but it's on the nightstand closest to the bathroom.
Oh, so you have to get up?
I have to get up, yeah. Do you remember there was an alarm clock a while back? It was called Clocky. Do you remember that invention?
Is it the one that jumped away from you?
Literally. Yeah. It was like on the Rage, I think in the early 90s, where you would set it and say you had hardwood floors in your bedroom. The thing would hop off the nightstand. You'd have to like chase after it.
Did you have one of those?
I didn't, but it always seemed like a great idea. And I think it could be a nice strategy for those folks who are trying to get back into that morning routine. Like the biggest thing we should try to refrain from is hitting the snooze alarm. It will actually make your energy levels even worse for the day, because then you're starting to get into another sleep cycle and you're starting to wake your body back up kind of constantly. So that's something that's really low hanging fruit. Try not to hit the snooze alarm. Maybe there's a different strategy for where you put that alarm clock.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because then it gives you have to get up. You're starting your day. You've made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And you're avoiding the temptation of, I have my phone in my hand. Let me just check to see if anybody texted me.
And it's hard. I don't want folks to think it isn't hard, especially when you're passionate about your work, you're passionate about what you have going on in that day. However, it's a boundary that will really help you have more energy.
So maybe we should just introduce the show topic since we have...
Is this the topic?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So today, what we want to help everybody with is starting your day in a really purposeful way, just like Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Be like Jeff.
Oh, man. They lay it on thick every time.
So, I think what we're saying by setting intention for your day is that you can really change your life for the good just by having a really purposeful routine. And something that somebody told me once was, if you're trying to make some changes in your life, making the decision once that you're going to make this specific change means that you don't have to continue to make that decision over and over. You don't have to continue to relitigate it. You've made the decision. That's the decision that you're going with. And maybe the decision is, I'm going to try my exercise in the morning and see how I feel throughout the day.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to add a couple of pages of reading in.
Yeah.
And just see how things change.
And you're describing start small, of course. Don't go like rogue right out of the gates and try to do a lot.
How long does it take to build a habit?
So in general, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. I mean, we've all heard the 21 days sort of rule. There's even the 66 days rule, which I think is closer. It's really difficult to know who to believe these days, but 66 days is closer to almost an over 2-month mark. So in wellness coaching, and when we think about setting goals, like setting parameters that not only provide us a sense of urgency, but also allow us to see a lot of progress, setting them in almost a 12-week time frame is really powerful. So I would say, minimum 66, and then I would push closer to 90 for that to really be solidified. So it being at 90 days, like it's not enough time where you can slack off and catch back up. And it's also kind of streamlined to the point where if it's 90 days, you can really look back on those 90 days and reflect on maybe the difference that your morning has exhibited in your life.
Yeah, it's enough of a sample size in terms of time where you can see, oh, you know what? I actually feel like I have a lot more clarity of thought during the day. I'm not as tired in the late afternoon. And, starting your day purposefully just probably is going to feel good, but you have to fill it with what you want to be doing.
Yeah, and I think there's so many, podcasts, books on morning routines. Like this is a pretty heavily focused topic. And so you've got to kind of take what's going to make sense for you and gradually build that into kind of that new normal.
Yeah. Let's maybe give some tips for people for different things that they can do to, as they're starting to explore some new things that they want to add into their morning. Have you ever slept in your exercise clothes?
I have not. Do you agree with that?
I did not enjoy that.
Oh, you tried it.
I did try it. I thought that I needed that. I didn't need that.
No.
And it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
But I do
Can't
know
imagine
that
so.
I do know that some people do that.
It depends on your exercise clothes for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So I think kind of going off of that, it does make sense to prepare what that morning's going to look like. So this could be laying out those clothes in a scenario. This could be trying to kind of create the environment that you want to settle into in the morning. So if it is even preparing that coffee with it already filled out, if you've got a drip, you've already got it ready where you just have to hit the button. That's another thing to think about. So I think with folks in the beginning, you could set yourself up for success, at least in the first few weeks, by maybe thinking about it the night before.
Yeah, and last week we had Lindsay Aslin on, our yoga and mindfulness expert, and she talked about unrolling your yoga mat, having it right next to your bed.
Oh, yeah.
So that the first thing you step on in the morning is that yoga mat.
Wake up, do that meditation, do that yoga. Maybe you get into that breath practice.
Yeah, and just having it visible in a place that's easily accessible to you is, I think, is probably another great tip for people.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to cue your environment, especially in the beginning, because there's probably some negative cues that have been maybe making it more difficult to wake up and get into that routine. So the more you can put positive cues in your environment, you'll be able to kind of spearhead this habit a little bit quicker.
What would a negative cue be?
I think a negative cue could be literally just a messy bedroom, for instance. So say your bedroom's not organized, usually your life isn't going to be organized. I think a lot of folks have spoken about how just making your bed, the act of making your bed the next day will kind of set you up for success. And so I think like when we think of mess in our environment, that can lead to mess in our mind. And so anything like that is something to think about as in regards to like a negative cue. It also could be maybe not deciding on the class you're going to go to, or not deciding on the route that you're going to walk or jog or whatnot, or even who you're going to do that with. I think that it's a negative cue in the beginning if you don't have at least one day a week that you maybe partner up for somebody in the morning. And that's not to be, abrasive from a standpoint of like you have to do a morning routine with someone else. But I think it's a great idea to have that extra level of support, which would be a positive cue. If you're going to the gym with Rachel and Lindsay, of course you're going to be more likely to get up and go to the gym.
Absolutely. Or if you know that Jeff's doing a run streak.
You're going to keep up with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's super great psychology for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's important too to say it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that you're there with physically. My cousin recently got into exercise and we started a text chain. So every morning he would send me his exercise workout. I would send him mine. And it was just a way that he used him to keep himself on track.
And it's tough. I mean, when it's a family member, I don't think we want the listeners to assume that like you should force your family members to do something with you. However, it is really powerful when you see that person who's maybe been struggling with that morning routine and getting into a groove of behaviors you know they want to do for themselves. It's nice to kind of be that extra level of support and set something up like that.
Yeah. Either for yourself or be that support for somebody else.
I think another thing, just thinking about our guests, is you could create a routine of checking in on our Skyterra at Home private Facebook page. I think a lot of guests have had experience with one another here, and they share similar stories where maybe they don't even tell anyone else in the group, but they go to that page after they do their one or two new things in the morning. And that comes part of their routine as sort of their own accountability. So I think some level of accountability, whether that's with yourself or with someone else, can be helpful in the morning.
Yeah, that must be really powerful for guests too. If they're trying to change the routines, having access to a whole group of people who are probably doing the same thing, have done the same thing, have experiences that they can share.
Yeah.
If you're not a past guest, we do always talk about skyterraathome.com, which has routines on it that you can follow if you don't want to go to the gym, because you don't have to go to a gym to exercise.
Yeah, of course.
And we have our Connect classes, breathing classes on Skyterra at Home. Just really great things that you can do right in your house.
It's pretty remarkable.
It really is.
Yeah. And one thing we haven't spoken about is breakfast. I think this is an important
Ooh, I love
level
breakfast.
to breach. Are you pretty on top of it? You're always in the zone. It's breakfast no matter what.
It is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I need coffee and I need breakfast, and I have a couple of really specific. When I have the time, I like to make a big breakfast.
Like to cook, get it going, that kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I definitely could say as far as my morning routine goes, that's where there's a little bit of a struggle for me. I think I used to be in a solid kind of wavelength with that. However, I get very sidetracked, get very like, I've got to go, I've got to get something done. And I have those 4 things that are non-negotiables, where breakfast is definitely something I could work on. And I bring it up because there's actually a lot of research behind starting your day with breakfast, especially if you have maybe a weight loss goal, or if you just want to feel better and feel more in control of your portions throughout the day. There's this registry out there. It's called the National Weight Control Registry. And so this is a registry of individuals who basically get surveyed on what has helped them keep the 20 pounds off. So in order to get into this registry, you have to have lost 20 pounds and kept 20 pounds off for 2 years or longer.
Oh, wow.
And so it's actually a really long time running study. And it's been around for quite a while, where if we learn from individuals who are doing certain things as part of their daily routine, we can think about what pieces of those we can mimic in order to get to that outcome that we may be after. And so if someone's after like just being more in control of their food and potentially weight loss, fat loss as an outcome, this registry actually has proven that 84% of these individuals who have lost 20 pounds and kept them off for 2 years or longer actually eat breakfast every single day.
And that's really great information to have too. Those are people who have worked to keep that weight off.
Yeah, and I think with where the world's at today, intermittent fasting gets spoken about a lot. And this isn't a nutrition conversation today.
Right.
However, it gives us some good food for thought, no pun intended.
Nice pun.
Yeah, you see that? to really prioritize breakfast. And so that could be an area that someone starts with, and you could even keep it simple. It doesn't have to be the full out cook fest that Rachel's speaking about. I don't know how into it she gets, but you definitely would want to start small. Is it a feast? Yeah, I can see that.
What does that mean?
No judgment. No judgment.
Do you, and I'm just curious, so I know you spend time reading in the morning. Are you specific about not eating while you read?
Yes, I am definitely.
So you can focus on the book?
Yeah, I'm a one thing at a time kind of person. I think when you've got 30 browsers up on your email, you tend to be, your internet browser, you tend to be a little bit less effective. So that's kind of the same thing where like, when you wake up first thing in the morning, there's so many things that are going to start calling for your attention.
Yeah.
And so by doing one thing at a time or kind of stacking the coffee with the shower, you can be productive in the morning and really get kind of those early wins. So something we talk about a lot is small wins when it comes to behavior change. And so the more small wins you can line up before you go into maybe that stressful day job, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to be able to handle working with your team better. You're going to be actually probably in a better headspace to perform at a higher level. And so I think that's an important thing to consider, in that don't try to multitask a morning routine, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, and I think it's probably easy to fall into that trap, because I think so many people were doing so much in the morning.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to add something, and we've talked about this before, how difficult it can be to add. So you might need to take something away. And that's okay.
Yeah, and folks with kids, I mean, I have gotten a total shell shock to my morning routine. I can't say that a couple months ago it was as dialed as it is now, kind of back on the wavelength. But folks need to think about that, because I think there's a lot of podcasts out there that talk about these really elaborate morning routines, and they forget about the other responsibilities that normal people might have. I'm not saying normal people, but we have to keep it into the context of our lives.
Yeah.
We shouldn't try to set a morning routine that's outside of what's probably possible most mornings of the week.
There's power in simplicity, for sure. You think about what has to get done. I have another question about your reading habit.
Go for it.
Do you, whatever you read in the morning, try to use it throughout the day?
Have you picked up on that? It's
I
like
did.
intentional.
Yeah.
Isn't it intentional?
That confirmation bias.
Yeah, confirmation bias. That was from the originals. Yeah, Adam Grant. I think it's really important, if you're like, a lot of folks can say they're doing these things, but maybe don't take the follow-up step. So all I mean by that is not that you can keep things to yourself, but if you share what you're learning with someone, it'll help you remember it. So it's actually a selfish act. You're now seeing what's happening.
Behind the curtain.
Yeah, behind the curtain.
But you do that on your social media as well. You share what you've read. And I know you do that so that you can remember, but I think it also helps other people.
Exactly. And that's the thing with even some of the tips and strategies we're throwing out today, or in any of these podcasts, is we literally just exist to hopefully make a difference in the lives of the people we get to work with.
We sure do.
Yeah.
Whether you're on the Skyterra campus or you're just listening to us.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty great. So set your intentions purposefully. When you say yes to one thing, you say no to another. And what about mindset? What kind of mindset tips can we help for? I think that we talked about this a lot in our New Year's resolution podcast, which was, it's not an all or nothing mentality. So if you have your intentions to do this specific routine, and you do it for one day, you do it for a second day, and then the third day, something is pressing and you don't get to do it, that doesn't mean you're starting back from scratch.
Yeah. You shouldn't beat yourself up if one day doesn't go perfectly. And I guarantee anyone who does have a morning routine or morning rituals, they're not perfect every single day.
No.
There's always kind of like, we're trying to hit that win column. But we can't beat ourselves up if it doesn't go according to plan, because not every morning's going to be like that.
Right. You have to have compassion for yourself.
Yeah. And I think along the mindset side of things, it's important to keep the morning pretty sacred. I think when you think about individuals trying to groom a new habit and to create new routines, it gets very difficult as the day goes on. And so setting that boundary is a really strong way of protecting your day. And so I think from a mindset standpoint, it's almost like acknowledging and having the awareness that you're going to put yourself first in the morning. You're number one. And by putting yourself first in the morning, you're going to actually be able to not only have more energy for the day, but you're going to either be able to help more people, regardless of what your occupation might be, or be more present with your family and with those people that you're spending time with.
And that's the most important.
Yeah.
Something else that if I'm really tired, and I'm, thinking about the fact that I have to wake up in the morning and trying to stay on my routine, I try to envision the most difficult part. And obviously for a lot of people, and myself included, it's that actual getting out of bed. And so I try to keep that in context. Like, really, that only takes 5 seconds. Once your feet are on the floor, you're good. So trying to visualize, I think, the difficult part and then just getting through that, and then the rest of it is on track. It's moving. You're in your routine.
Tends to fall into place once we take that first step.
Like, absolutely.
Well, we have thrown out some really good strategies here.
Yeah.
I think one other thing that's coming up for me, just as a way of those who are maybe starting out, trying to reset this routine a little bit, is to think about the night before a little more. I know, aren't you like a huge list maker? My wife,
I love
Lindsay,
my lists. Lindsay loves her lists.
She is like all about it. It almost is a little bit intimidating when I see lists.
You have lists?
I have lists, but my lists are made kind of in real time after the morning routine. I think for maybe you, maybe my wife, I think it's done very proactively. Not that setting it right when you get into your day isn't a bad move, but I think it's an interesting strategy to help those who maybe need to get those things out of their brain, all of those things that are going to come up tomorrow, so that then they can like, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to do the morning routine first, but then I already know I have these things that need to be accomplished after that.
Yeah, I need to have my list done at night.
Don't you do like a weekly list?
I have a weekly list,
Wow.
But the weekly list every day gets reorganized for what are the most important things for the day that's coming.
Okay. So you kind of reprioritize in the moment, but you already have like a set plan for it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you're basically doing double of what I'm doing, is what I'm hearing.
That makes me sound inefficient, Jeff.
No, it could. It depends on our listeners' confirmation bias. But it's all relevant.
But I like your list strategy too, because you do the 3 top things for the day, right?
The big 3. And I think with, the pace of anybody's life, sometimes you don't always know what those big 3 are the night before. And so I think that's another thing for folks to remember in general, is to stay flexible. Like, even if you can do 2 out of the 4 things that you're going to commit to, great, get those 2 out of 4 things done, because at least those 2 things start to move the needle for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And getting things done, crossing things off the list, whether it's your morning routine or what you have to do in the day, it just feels great.
It's really cool. Yeah, I'm surprised more people don't post their lists on Instagram to show everybody what they've done.
Well, it's not very sexy, the list.
It's not, it's maybe outside the realm of what some of these other posts are going after.
All right.
So, you want to wrap this thing up?
I think I do. So, to summarize, mornings can set the tone for your entire day. You want to set an intention. You want to think about whatever routine you're going to be building. Make sure that you're giving yourself a long enough lead time to be able to build that habit. See what feels right for you. Find and listen to your body. Find what is going to make the most sense. Maybe find a morning buddy or someone who you can check in with, whether it's in person or virtually. Identify roadblocks, strategize to get around them. And I think, lists.
The mindset was big at the end.
Mindset was big.
Create the mindset. So when you go back to thinking about the triangle of change, you want to make sure you're aware of what that morning's going to look like. Then have courage to really go after that morning routine. And remember that as you do that morning routine day after day, you're going to build a lot of confidence that this is your new normal.
Love it.
Boom.
Boom.
All right, send us off.
All right, I got this. So the Inspired Intentions podcast is a production of Skyterra Wellness. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alan Broyhill, who I understand likes to do Tai Chi in the morning.
He does.
Yeah.
That's actually a really cool morning routine.
It is cool.
It's probably before the latte would be my guess.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Send us your questions and comments to inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. Rate and review us. Give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be found.
And if you're not going to give us 5 stars, just don't leave a review, please.
We say that every week, but we kind of mean it.
We kind of mean it, but we also do respect your opinion.
And your feedback.
Yes, 100.
Join us next week as we cut through the unrealistic noise on diets and fitness, and show you how healthy living fits seamlessly into your already busy life. Thanks, Joe.